I don't think there's an appropriate way to start off this video. Gumshoos, a Stage 2 normal type Pokemon introduced in Generation 7. While some of the other early route Pokemon are cool in their own right, for the most part they're just barely memorable enough. But what's really kept them in the general consciousness are the memes that they end up becoming a part of. Some of these are fun and goofy, but then there's the unfortunate circumstance of Yungoos and Gumshoos. This is how one Pokemon ruined everything. I mean how everything ruined one Pokemon. During the lead up to Sun and Moon, the 4 trailer revealed some of the creatures we'd be encountering near the beginning of our adventure, and here is where we got our first look at Yungoos. A Pokemon based on the Mongoose, the official website at the time told us that it had a rivalry with Rattata, and that it was brought to the ALOLA region in order to control their population, inspired by the real-life events where Mongoose were brought to Hawaii to deal with the rats that were living there after they had come on the boats. And it would go along with Alolan Rattata and Alolan Raticate, which are both dark types. So as a way to combat these little criminals, we would need someone to bring them to justice. And yeah, Gumshoos didn't really send the message that Game Freak had intended. A cool idea in concept, I mean, as we can tell from the name, it's supposed to be like a detective, a reference to the word gumshoe, which is a slang term for detective. Ace Attorney fans might be familiar with this. The way that Gumshoos' fur spreads out on the sides and drapes down to the back makes it look like a trench coat. But the overall wide appearance, yellow fur at the top that resembles hair, and generally unpleasant look, the connection was then made to Donald Trump, the D-list actor from Home Alone 2 who just happened to be running for president of the United States in 2020. Now, I wouldn't normally mention stuff like this, the most political I'll get is saying that I like furry Pokemon, but in the name of Pokemon meme history, this had to be said. Of course, it was predominantly a thing among English-speaking internet users. I'm not saying that I hate any of these memes, I think they're either fine or unfunny at worst, and I don't think that memes alone will completely ruin a Pokemon. We've seen many others that were the focus of jokes, and while they might cause a reputation to form among general people, the fans usually care more about the actual appearances in the video games and anime. But for a Pokemon like Gumshoos that didn't have a chance to form a connection with players before the memes began, it was a lot harder. Especially because I don't think it's all that interesting. I mean, the fact that it served as the first totem Pokemon was pretty cool, but that was only the case in Pokemon Sun, because otherwise in Pokemon Moon, Alolan Raticate would be taking the stage. Version exclusive challenges like this can be pretty cool, but they don't really do all that well for their popularity because they have to share the spotlight among the players. Also, I don't feel that Gumshoos really captures the detective vibe that it was going for. Like I said, the trench coat works well enough, but the yellow fur on its head really does look like a blonde comb-over, the thing that contributed most to the comparisons. I think it's supposed to be more like a hat, but yellow really might have been the wrong choice. I understand the thought process as a way to contrast the dark colors of Alolan Raticate, though maybe leaning into the dark colors for both of them would have worked as a reference to noir detective films. Also, the collar on the coat could have been brought up more or just made bigger to really drive home the idea, and the arms could have been posed in the front to give it a better silhouette, because as it stands, Gumshoos doesn't have the immediate detective vibes in the same way that other Pokemon based on specific human roles normally do. Delibird has bright red feathers and clear signifiers like a beard and a bag. This is obviously Santa Claus. Mismagius and Honchkrow have distinct hats built into them that tell you exactly what they're supposed to be, a witch and a mob boss. So I'm not saying that the idea couldn't work at all, but just that Gumshoos' design isn't exaggerated enough. So when it was unleashed to the world, everyone made the closest connection possible based on what was popular on the internet at the time. And I don't think it's only the base design that fails Gumshoos, but a lot of the other depictions as well. I do appreciate that it gets a signature ability called Stakeout, which in name is a perfect way to set up the reference, but we really didn't see this idea being used all that much. Looking at all the art in the trading card game, it's only ever shown out in the wilderness acting more like an animal. Nothing depicting it at night in the city, and nothing that even shows it next to Alolan Raticate. The most we really got was in the anime where one was partnered up with Officer Jenny, but even then there isn't all that much beyond it. The episode that this Pokemon debuted in, episode 9 of the Sun and Moon anime, does utilize it pretty well, leaning more into the historical inspiration behind the animal itself. A bunch of Alolan Rattata and Alolan Raticate have overrun a town on Melemele Island, eating all the food growing in the fields. So when Ash and his friends brainstorm and discover that they can have a Gumshoos help chase them all away, he heads off to challenge the totem Pokemon of the island and recruit it. It's a cool episode and is great for really setting up the island challenge, as we also get to meet Hakuna Hala, and then the battles are pretty cool as Ash, Pikachu, and Rowlet face off against the little guys at first, before the giant totem Pokemon appears. And then of course they face off against the boss and are able to defeat it, earning its trust. Now they're able to chase off the Rattata and Raticate and save the town. Again, I think this works out pretty well to fit in with the real life events that inspire these Pokemon and shows a bit more of the rivalry between the different groups. But for a Pokemon that is specifically based on a certain occupation, it doesn't give us all that much compared to the others in the past. And so with all of this, Gumshoos was never really able to break out of the weird meme niche that it was unfortunately placed into. But that was just a little bit of the history and analysis of one of the most infamous Pokemon ever made. I don't think that it's entirely this Pokemon's fault for even doing anything, but more so a weird case of unfortunate circumstances and timing. Had Gumshoos appeared in Generation 6 or had Donald Trump not been running for president, I doubt that the connection would have been made between the two. But ultimately, I think it comes down to Gumshoos itself not executing the design inspiration the best that it could have. So let me know what you think about this Pokemon in the comments below, and if you're a fan of the design or you would change anything about it. Personally, it was never really one of my favorites, even the pre-evolution Yungoos I wasn't too interested in, which is a shame because hypothetically this could have been one of the coolest underrated Pokemon of the generation. But I guess it wasn't meant to be. You know, if anything, I think this Pokemon is really deserving of a regional variant or an evolution. Honestly, it would be amazing to see that happen in a future game. But for now, I guess we'll let the memes continue. Anyway, I should probably get back to my own stakeout. Those clues aren't gonna find themselves. Thank you to every channel member for your continued support, including the Great Gators, Air is Away, ELR27, DeAndre, Zanito, Jamarcus Nixon, Frix, Boss Dragon, Justin Dowes, Ben's Quizm, Mazhar Siddiqui, Cemetery Hill, Pastel Blood, Cosmo Zero, Mr. Saturn, Rainfrux, Cheez-It62, Alex Switch, Shiny Hunter, Michael Snyder, Lockadox, GatorKid509, TF, Mathiclaw947, Taijirai, Justin R, Phantom, and Quago. If you would like to support, see your name here, get access to emotes for comments, live streams, and sometimes early videos, you can become a channel member today. You can also follow me on Twitter as well for more memes. Anyway, this is GatorX, thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you all later.
Throughout the history of the passage of time, few have been able to proudly proclaim themselves as Pokemon Masters. This President's Day, witness the latest and the greatest. It's Pokemon Diamond and Pearl Battle Dimension. Don't miss every showdown facing Ash, Pikachu, Brock, and Dawn.
Oh, right!
Show your Pokerism. It's Pikachu's Day. All day Monday starting at 6 a.m. Right here on Cartoon Network.